Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of Alum Talk Live. I am the host today, Jerry Redmond. I am the president of the MVSU National Alumni Association, and I am ecstatic about what we have going on today. For those of you that may not know my professional life, I do not work for Mississippi Valley State University. I know I'm a brand steward and a lover of the Valley, but it does not pay any of my bills. Uh, but along those lines, my love for the university has always been there. I am actually a practicing graphic design professional and marketing professional. My company is called Redmond Design Service, which is a full service design, marketing, and interactive firm based in Memphis with an office in Jackson, Mississippi as well. My focus has been HBCUs and, of course, consulting and giving direction to my alma mater, Mississippi Valley State University. But today's focus is about the university brand builders. For those of us that are familiar with all of the branding that is taking place, and what do we mean by branding? We're talking about, the image that represents the tone, the feel, and what brand is not necessarily what we say it is what others says that it is. And Mississippi Valley State for years, from the 80s all the way through the 90s and the 2000s, and these different generations have had different faces. And what I thought would be good is for you to know that an alum has played an aggressive role in the brand building of Mississippi Valley State University. So I wanted to bring to the panel a real nice offering of stewards of the Mississippi Valley State University brand. And because this is a long talk, a long talk was a series created to make certain that we help Valley in all ways. As a part of a retention plan for the National Alumni Association, we want alumni to engage our students, to tell them about their experience and how they took all that Valley had to offer them and became practicing professionals and took classes in the same classrooms that they are taking classes in, and in some instances lived in the same residential halls, walked the same campus that they're on now and have become a success. And that lets you know that it is purely possible as we work together to keep Valley in motion. So, coming to the screen, I have, without any further ado, an elite panel of graphic design legends. This is our Mount Rushmore of graphic design artists that I'm about to bring out to you now, along with a senior graphic arts major. So, coming to the screen, the stage right now is John McCall, Dartane Winford, and Mark Clark. You have three generations. I feel like this is a big family reunion. I got my uncle Mark I hadn't seen in years, and I got all my cousins and my play cousins and my brothers that I have not seen in a couple of years. So it's just great, guys, to have all of us on the line together here to share insight on the marks and brands you touched and what particular era or genre of Mississippi Valley State you were a part of. So if you would, guys, we're going to start with John and work our way. Let's get introductions. Let everybody know what year you were Valley and what your professional capacity is now.
All right. Well, I'm gonna say my name is John McCall, and I was at Valley in the '90s. I'm not getting my age. Uh, Currently, I am the senior graphic designer for the university, and
Yes.
basically, I work. I work, and
You at work now.
and work out. I'm multitasking.
That's all right. John, let us know which brand you had a hand in, what particular component you played a role in. We're going to show a bunch of work, but tell
Yeah,
us which ones you worked specifically with.
I guess the biggest one would be the Delta Delta.
Yeah,
Uh, that one that you're looking at right now is the old one.
that's the older
Right.
one.
Right.
The
But
the, the devil and the devilette
right,
is the
right.
one that you did.
This
There we go. That's
right.
now we're talking.
That's
That's what John's had a hand in. Excellent.
that's what I had a hand in designing, and actually, this would be a good segue because designing this, I did this along with Mr. Winford.
All right then. So D, go ahead and introduce yourself, man. Let us know who you
John
are.
Wood put me on the spot. I am D'Artagnan Winford, and I am of the class of 2002, Mississippi Valley. I was a fine art major with an emphasis in VizCom, and what else am I supposed to talk about? Do I talk about
What you do now, and what your which one of those brands you worked on?
So currently, I am a senior art director at Raimi, an advertising agency here in Jackson, or originally. And I worked on the MVSU's VS logo.
Yeah.
I did that actually when I was in college, along with the help of my co-worker John. We were co-workers back then, and then
Wow.
So yeah,
Lee, you said you'd worked on it while you were in college. So you were a student when you were engaged to do that?
Yeah, I was.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
We did the original while we were in college, and then once I started working for the university, I decided to update it. So we updated it, and that's how we got to the banner version that you see now.
Wow, that was your on the job. That was your interview as a
student.
Exactly.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Developing the brands for you and John were your interviews, and then when they were hit, they said, "Hey, we got to hire these guys." That is awesome. We're gonna circle back and get some more insight on that. That's great.
Okay.
Hey, now we have the godfather of us all. This guy inspired me, and he doesn't know it. So, hey, Mark, give him some insight. Tell him a little bit about yourself.
All right, glad to be here. My name is Mark Clark, and I was a part of the class of, I guess, 85, somewhere along that. It's been such a long time, but let me see. I designed the original, that logo right there, Valley. And I was a student also. That was back in the latter part of 82, going to 83. I think it was in the yearbook. It wasn't as finished as that is, but because it was pretty much like hand drawn in the yearbook. But interesting story. I was working with the yearbook committee under Miss McCoy a long time ago, and I happened to see Perrier, the water Perrier, mineral water, and for some reason, the lettering on that bottle inspired me to do the Valley. So even when I know it would inspire me, but I can't say, well, it's just something that just inspired me to do it. But anyway, so now I'm presently working as a artist, graphic design, and a musician. I'm also an educator. I teach at a place called, I teach high school on the weekends, St. Louis Artworks, where we teach them art skills.
Wow.
And during the week, I'm a public school teacher where I teach music.
Wow.
And that's pre-K through 8. So
wow. That is awesome. Man, to hear you go through that litany, man, as we look and pause to take a look, I gotta jump into these generations. And when we start talking about the artwork, I want you guys to follow. And if you're art majors out there, if you're art and desktop publishing enthusiast kinds of people, I want you to see the transition of our work over the years. Mark's work as a traditional graphic designer coming from the paste up days. Hey guys, this was before Photoshop. Okay, this was before all of that. This guy was doing brochure layouts, full comps. We're talking, let's pause right here and look at what John would do for our holiday reading Old Silent Night kind of deal here. He would whip up this whole photorealistic piece. This cat was doing these full illustrations. That's not clip art, people. That's illustrated work. Look at the trombones. I don't know my instruments. Saxophone. Look at the line quality on this. This is rapidograph pen, ink mock-ups, and then shot to compose a layout kind of stuff. Am I on point with that, Mark? I know I'm dating myself a little bit.
No, yes, you are. In fact, I got that pen set out of the bookstore.
Wow.
It was a little divider.
When they was too expensive.
Well, I had a scholarship, so it was free for me. So
yeah, well, we had to go to Memphis college. We had to go to Memphis. The Art Center in Memphis is where we had to go. It was like Walmart for us. It was like, oh my goodness. And art supplies are in Walmart now. So I mean, the times are completely different when it comes to the traditions of graphic design work. But I wanted you guys to see the breadth of work. Look at these brochures, D and John. John, this brochure that the music department or admissions want you to work on had to be done using these traditional methods.
Wow.
Okay. You understand what I'm saying? That you had to leave a space for that photo, for that color photo to be dropped in. So that Photoshop layering and blending, all that kind of you got a place for that image to go, and it's gonna go in that spot. And if you notice, everything that he has is 2-color, 1-color, spot color, the traditional way. So that the valley and then them red stripes was a plate by themselves that he had to put together. And then the other stuff was either you put the dot patterns over the top of that, and then the ink was applied to it to give it the color on that printed page. So we're talking about foundation in graphic design that a lot of our graphic designers today, you know, may not even know the foundational principles of graphic design and some of the traditional methods. I'm fortunately enough to kind of be right at that turning point between where Mark was and John and D, where, you know, what I share with you all, because little you may know that I used to be a graphic arts instructor at Mississippi Valley State University in the Fine Arts Department. And that's where I come to know John and Dee as students. And I'm not that much older than they are. So, you know, it's a situation where I saw the need to come back under the direct coercing of my department chair, Dr. Sandra Scott. She coerced me after I finished my master's at Memphis College of Art to come back. And I'll be the first to say it was the greatest time in my life to see a group of students like John and Dee and Tamika and you know, the whole crew, and how you grasped it and went on out into life and turned it into a career. I met my wife, who's an artist as well. She's an elementary school art teacher. She's a miniaturist as well. She does doll houses, custom doll houses and miniatures. So to be steeped in art, and all because of the Valley, and we all got our starts there. It's a sight to behold. Now, if we could share one of John's brochures, because I want to stay in this vein to kind of show the time periods of a brochure done for admissions. And this is some of the poster and promotional work that John is doing. He has a Valley Bound that this is this generation of what Mark was doing traditionally as an artist, to now how it's being done today in the same office of communications at Mississippi Valley State University, just showing the difference in how the generations of graphic design and how that industry has evolved when it comes to commercial or graphic design. But conceptually, there you go. So Mark did that brochure. He did a Valley piece. This would be this generation of that. And that is just amazing to see how Mark's piece still goes hand in hand. It's fighting with that. It's gleaming. And John didn't even know who Mark was. You know what I'm saying? It's just amazing to see how these traditions go. John, you want to speak to your brochure? Kind of the process you went into with it?
Well, I agree with you that I think you said something earlier, and I totally agree with it, that we are stewards. We are just making sure that the brand stays where it needs to be at, to make sure that the look is there, to make sure that we put all that we can into it to make sure that it's there. Like the brochures that I do, like you said, I got computers now. When you did that stuff, Mark, I know about, I still remember, or I do know about camera ray stuff that you had to do. Camera ray, you had to get all the layout and stuff.
And a lot of the big type was something called press on type.
Wow.
You got this one page of the alphabet. And
right.
If you want to write MVSU, you find an M. Yep. You find a V.
I can't go to Adobe Fonts and get what?
Yeah, I mean, what? That was some stuff. That was some stuff.
I don't have to load in the font book on my Mac. What?
No.
You got a drawer of typefaces in different point sizes. Guys, you know, we send up here shift command, up arrow, down arrow, get the point size larger and smaller. Mark
Yes.
had to go through some sheets of typefaces in point sizes.
Mark didn't have no undos.
Man, and right.
Woo, I can't imagine getting edited.
People out here, alumni in the world, I know we're talking Chinese to you all. I know this is a whole other language we're speaking, but for those students aspiring to be graphic design professionals, we're here to tell you that you can. Right there at Mississippi Valley State University in Itta Bena, Mississippi. Mark, you were originally from where?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Mark is originally from St. Louis, Missouri. And John, you're from originally?
Side Mississippi.
Side Mississippi. Dartain is from the capital city of Itta Bena, Mississippi. I do know that one.
Yes, sir.
I hail from the great Macedonia called Dar Love, Mississippi, the suburban annex to Hollandale, Mississippi, right off of Highway 61. So you're talking about tried and true designers that found themselves in those hallways and classrooms at Mississippi Valley State University. And once you knew that that was the direction that you needed to go in through the inspiration and coercing of your instructors, it pretty much set the tone for it. Mark, you were sharing with us in the 80s that you had an instructor from Mississippi Valley that had an impact on you. Share some insight on that experience.
Yeah, there was a guy named Mr. Penley. I can't recall his first name. He came to the Valley, I think it was my junior year, because actually I stayed an extra year because I actually majored in music and I wanted to get more art classes under my belt before I left. So anyway, Mr. Penley came from Dallas. He was in a design studio. I can't recall all my thoughts, but he was very instrumental in helping me. And by the way, my uncle here in St. Louis was an artist. He was a fine artist though. And in 1 year, he just sent me a whole box of, that press type I was telling you, and all the little graphic things. He sent me a whole box full of stuff. So I'm eternally grateful to my uncle and the instructor, Mr. Penley at Valley State.
That's awesome. And I'll chime in and then you guys can go down as well. For me, I come from roughly a family of artists. My uncle, Reverend Freddie DeShazer, out of Clarksville, Mississippi, was the artist of our family. As a kid, I could come over to my grandmother's and see him working on art projects. And he's an alum of Mississippi Valley State University as well. He was doing wood sculpture and carvings and paintings, portraits of all of his siblings. We have portraits that are hanging up in my grandmother's house now, and actual tree stumps that were carvings of individuals, just in a massive collection. He's one of the first artists to do a portrait of Sam Chapman, who's a blues artist in the Mississippi Delta that's from Hollandale, Mississippi. So that was my first dose of it. And ironically, his son, Wesley DeShazer, who is my cousin, we're the same age. He was a major inspiration to me because he could draw anything. And when your cousins get together, you have drawing contests or you're racing or running or whatever it is. He was always just blowing me out of the water, and it encouraged me to go, man, how are you doing this? And he would show me shading techniques. He would show me basics. And then when we got in high school, he would I would illustrate the t-shirts and he would actually screen print them. So when I was in high school, I had a t-shirt business, y'all. I did posters and banners for my high school. The football team bust through all of my signs that I would do. And my senior class trip, I designed a t-shirt. My cousin printed them. We bought the t-shirts from like Walmart or Fred's blank. And then he made a screen because he had a screen printing class that his dad taught. And he learned how to screen print. And to see that in high school, how the image went onto the t-shirt was just mind-blowing. So I credit my uncle, I credit my cousin, in the early formative years for me, to exposing me to art. And then my mom being a librarian, she was cutting letters and doing bulletin boards that were just phenomenal. So it was like a surrounding of it, that just completely consumed me. And when I got to Valley, I knew that I wanted to major in art and I wanted to do this graphic thing. But at the time, I didn't know that we had graphic design. I didn't understand what visual communications was. So I majored in computer science thinking I needed to be a programmer to learn how to do graphic design. So I went and got a whole degree in computer science, took pre-calculus and Fortran and COBOL. All I need to know how was to work Illustrator. So yeah, but Ron Minks, Dorothy Vaughan, Charles Davis, Frank Hartman, those are ones that poured into me like none other. Charles Davis specifically was a true inspiration for me, introducing me to photography, introducing me to, Black art, giving me some substance and culture behind the legacy of Black artists before me. So that was one of my major inspirations. And all of those are faculty members who've either passed on or who have retired from Mississippi Valley. But that's me, guys.
Gotcha. Well,
So, D, you can run through, some of your inspirations. Most definitely you, John, as well, and then we can we'll move to the next sector, and I'm hoping that we get the student pulled in.
All right, I would say the person that inspired me probably the most was my high school art teacher. My gifted art teacher's name was Donald Parker, who was also a Valley alum. And Mr. Parker he would always talk about his time at the Valley and, his time in that program and how when he was there, they were doing like studying abroad programs. And, he spent time in like Italy and France and stuff like that. And like he would show us pictures of himself painting on the Louvre and, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, wow. And so he, get ready to go to college. I remember I didn't know what I wanted to major in. He gave me a book called Jobs in Art, and in that book was graphic design, and the description was computer aided graphics. And I previously was taking a computer science class in high school, and in that class when we were done with our work, I would go in Microsoft Paint and create NBA logos and stuff like that because that's what I was just into. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw that, everything just kind of lined up,
Yeah.
And then I get to Valley and meet Jerry and John, and Jerry is leading the charge, and the rest is pretty much history. It's just it was like a fire lit, and I just wanted to create. It was like I had found what I do, for the first time, and so that's the beginning of my I guess matriculation to a designer.
Yeah, awesome. John?
Well, I would say my brother, my older brother named Ricky. He started drawing one day. We just started drawing some stuff, and I'm like, why can't I do that? So I started drawing. Like, well, I can draw it. I remember because I became crazy about comic books, and the first comic book I ever drew was about Bigfoot. All right, so I drew the thing about Bigfoot crossing the street. It was, but that's what I started doing. I started wanting to draw, so I started drawing more and more and more, and I started really getting into comics. And then I said, well, that's probably what I want to do. I want to draw comics. So I said, well, I started drawing. I found out all the techniques and the paper and everything you need to do that. So that's what I was doing. I was just doing that up. Then I read one of these wisdom magazines that said that they was doing colorization by computer. I'm like, really? Well, I need to find a computer. Then I found out Valley had art classes. So I said, well, I can learn how to color on computer at Valley. And so I wouldn't even think about anything else. I just wanted to learn how to color comics on a computer. So I went to Valley and got into the classes. And then while I don't think you was there yet, Jerry, because I remember I was in a Davis class. And when I was in Davis class, I was, I think it was like Color Fundamental, and him and Hartman was just they're talking, and they was just talking about Jerry. Like, man, this Jerry was something. He doing it. That Jerry doing it. Like, man, I gotta meet this Jerry. So, so you became like this icon before I even met you, right? So
Wow.
they was just talking about you, like Jerry, he's doing it up. So then when you came and you brought those computers in, oh man, you blew our minds. Everybody was just like, wow, okay, this is the direction we want to go. So
yeah, that's amazing, John, to hear you say that. When we talk about that, I was in graduate school at Memphis College of Art. So that was when I got exposed to setting up labs. I was a lab technician, responsible for the lab. So installing software on all the systems and all of those particulars. And when I got to Valley, it was like, wow. If I went to Dr. Scott and said, hey, I need this, I'm trying to set up a lab, she would go and do whatever she had to do to pull the resources together, which is why I really appreciate the leadership we had. Although we still had challenges and had a lot of stuff that we needed, we tried to cover the bases. I think we had keels for ceramics. We had the cameras we needed for photography in a dark room. We had the printing presses. We had drawing studios. So we had enough not to just complain and use it as an excuse as to why I couldn't be successful. And the computer lab was a critical piece of that turning point of where the industry was. And that's why I knew it would be a disservice to you all if we didn't, outside of these fundamental and foundation things you need to be learning about 2D design, typography, composition, drawing, all of those particulars, that you did have to have exposure to the software, Photoshop, Illustrator. I'm gonna take you back, PageMaker, Quark Express, all of those, foundational desktop publishing and design tools that lay the foundation for the work that we see, and that is transitioning now to this interactive social media content management world where everything is template based. You can pretty much just take a picture and throw it in something that's already got a texture background and choose a typeface and the layout's done.
Right.
What does that say about us and the conceptualizing and the processing we do to come up with the layouts that you've seen in some of John's work and Dee's work, and Mark's work, even then having to plan your design, was major. And, with my clients, and I tell them all the time, I'll conceptualize roughly, that's going to be your low point. But when I power up the computer to start building finished product, that's when the clock really ticks. So if you can't decide from this rough, you don't want to pay me to sit and come up on the computer finished pieces for you. That's gonna be a pretty rough piece. Hey, we have gotten a student in the house here now. We got Woods, who is a senior graphic design major. Malik, that's baby boy. Y'all in the family reunion, that's baby boy. He ran to the store for Big Mama, and now we back meet up with all his uncles and cousins and different forefathers that he didn't even know existed. But Malik, we have a full panel of Valley alums that are practicing graphic design or professional artists practicing right now, and that is that's their profession. So I wanted to bring you on to see if there were any questions that you had that you might want to share with some of your alum colleagues that would not mind mentoring. I know you and I have begun talks, and we'll be beginning to work closely so that I can kind of figure out where you are as a senior graphic arts major from Chicago, Illinois. Just wanted to give you this opportunity to say hey and to ask any questions to any of these. Now, we've got a graphic designer from the 80s, we've got 90s, 2000s, we've got a whole stretch here of an evolving profession. So if you have any questions, jump in or tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to introduce myself once more. Malik Woods. I'm a senior graphic design major at Mississippi Valley State University, and I'm from Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
And it's an honor to be amongst you fellow graphic designers. I'm a future graphic designer myself. And so to really get into it, some of my major questions are making the transition from college to the professional world of graphic design. What was that like for you all? For everybody, no one specific. Just I want to hear from everybody. What was that like for you all?
D, jump in, because I know you have a really, really good story coming from being a student to, working at the university, then transitioning to Jackson State, professionally. Give him some insight on that. And then with John, we can jump in too.
So mine was interesting. I hear okay, can you guys hear me? Okay,
Yeah,
all right. So mine was interesting. I started interning while at the Valley at the John Richard Collection, and that pretty much became like a job. And so basically, I went from, going there, for a couple hours in the morning to actually working there, and even when I finished school, I think I was still working there because they eventually kind of hired me a little bit. But other than that, I will say, coming out of college into the workforce was scary because all that known was small Itabena and Greenwood, and the only firm in the area that I knew of was Hammonds and Associates, and I remember going there because honestly, sometimes you have to do free work before you can get paid, and so I remember going there and talking to the owner, and I did some shadow work, for them, and my shadow work was basically scanning pictures, things like that, and I did that as long as I could, and then I ended up my first job out of school wasn't directly related to design, but it was in the arts. I was an activity director at an adult day center, and I did that for about a year and a half maybe, and from there, that's when I learned of the first opening for a graphic design job at the Valley. And so I went and applied for that. And honestly, I made up some work, like a few days before that interview. I created brochures and logos and stuff for that adult day center I was working for. I actually had made some stuff before that interview came about because I did like a newsletter and stuff like that for them. But when I heard I had the interview, I created some stuff and I went for that interview and nailed it. And so that was kind of my pattern from college to the workforce.
Wow, good deal. John?
Well, I started doing some freelancing stuff even while I was in college. I mean, me and Dee, we had did the Devil logo, and I did that Valley logo, that circular one that was on the water tower.
Okay.
I remember that.
Right.
A contest, remember?
Yeah, that was a contest. Yeah, that was. That was a contest. It was. And so I did that, but I took some jobs that was not in my field. And my first really job I worked at was for this magazine company called Mahogany. And pretty much doing all the graphic work. And I think I learned to do some web stuff there. And I think I worked there for about a year, and then my next job was a job that really gave me some great insight on designing. Was working for a printing company, Mississippi Printing, and I learned the backside of design. Then, like for instance, I know, like when we started talking about plates and layout and all that kind of stuff, I know exactly what it is. So that way, what it did was it allowed me to really build. When I build a layout, I know what it's going to take in order to get it produced, printed. I know the colors, I know everything, I know the whole 9 yards, I know what crop marks mean, what the purpose behind stuff. And I think every designer really need to have that ideal in their head, or at least have some part of that concept. Know what a spot color is, know the PMS colors and the CMYKs. You got to know all this stuff. It helps you when you do your design. I mean, I know a lot of designers, they'll start designing, they won't not even know what the size should be. You start designing, but you should always know stuff in advance. You should know You should know the size it's going to be, how it's going to be produced, how it's going to look, and everything. You should even know what it's going to look like when you decide to go with social media with it, because all this stuff is extremely important, because each one of those medium is different, and the colors would change, and ideas. You should know fonts. You should know about embedding. You should know all this stuff before you even, and that helps you. So when you do go into the real world and go into getting a job, you will know this stuff. It's real important to know this stuff, because if you don't, you're going to end up, people not going to trust you. They're not going to know you. They're not going to know that you can do what you say you can do. And
and John, that's very pointed that you're sharing, because Malik, I can dive in and then we'll give Mark the opportunity to come in and collaborate. For me, it was the development of a portfolio. You had to have a firm portfolio in that transition. You have to look at other art. You have to look at other designers. You have to know what's out there. The issue for me, when I left Valley, I had a fine arts portfolio wanting to get into a graphic design industry. It was enough for me to get an interview, but when we dived into the particulars of the tools, I knew that I wasn't ready. So all of that senior year is when I started interviewing and filling out applications and trying to get positioned in agency. And it's very it's endearing to me when I think of companies that I applied for when I came to Memphis, how I end up doing work for them when I established my own agency, and explaining to the owner, hey, you interviewed me about 20 years ago, and you told me that I didn't have enough skill set and the technical aspects of this. I could tell you're an artist, but you didn't have it. And there's like, that was you, Jerry? I remember that. Like, Redmond Design, here's my invoice for this, what I'm doing for you now. So be encouraged, Malik, nonetheless, is where I'm saying with that. And graduate school is where I had to get exposure to the agency world. If I was going to be a graphic designer working for a web company or interactive company or an advertisement agency or a print company, you've got to understand those disciplines within inside of graphic design so that you understand, like John was saying, how to design for those deliverables, those end products. And it's okay to be a jack of all trades. It's okay, but I really need you to master something. I need you to be known for this. Now, I have a knowledge of this and I can do this, but this is what I'm known for. That's the commodity that you really have to spend time cultivating and developing over time. But being fearful of showing people your work, man, you don't want to show nobody your portfolio because you're insecure about it yourself. I know it's not the best, but you'd be amazed at the criticism that you get. Critiques were the most painful part of me in graduate school, but they broke me down to build me back up, to get me to understand that it's nothing personal. It's about this body of work that you've created, and you've missed these points, or the composition is off, or this abstract representation is a little too simplistic, or I'm not getting what you're saying, kind of things. Those are the kinds of pieces that you want to be critical. So for you, Malik, in this transition place, let John see your work. Let Dee see your work. Let me see your work. Gorge your loins. Be just toughen your skin so that we can help you see adaptations and adjustments you can make to make your work stronger, and find that major influence in a designer so that you can begin to glean from them, not copy them, glean from them, so that influence actually affects and dictates the way that you start to design and make it your own. As a retired graphic arts instructor, my most critical place as an instructor in any of my design students' lives was the critique. Making certain that your portfolio was ready to represent you when someone that's a practicing professional or a business owner or art director or creative director sees your work. They're ready to know, hey, this guy's a professional. He understands that could be better, and not all personal. Man, that dude don't know what he's talking about my work. I intended for that line to be crooked, and I intended.
We've all been there.
They don't know what he's talking about, man. Shoot, my stuff's nice. My mama said my stuff was nice, so it's nice. That kind of thing. Mark, chime in, man. Give him some insight on that transition. You're muted. And we can't unmute you. I don't know where he's muted. Yeah, I can't unmute you. See where your mute is. All right, well, I'll get the technician to give you a buzz as we transition. We'll go through Malik. In response to some of the things we've said, man, until we get Mark back on, we have some technical difficulties with him. What's your response on some of that?
Well, I'm just hearing a lot of great feedback, honestly. So pretty much what two of you guys, pretty much all of you guys have said that you guys have to do some freelance work outside of getting paid with the whole graphic design thing. And I can understand that you have to build yourself up a portfolio, show people what you're able to do so they can figure out where you can go from there. That's really good. That's really good insight. That's something I've really taken to heart. Another thing.
Yeah, let me, and I want to, as you process, I want to give you this to give me some feedback and comment on as well. Today, as an African American graduate of a HBCU, I want you to always remain conscious of that. With no will, we know the world that we live in as African Americans, and as African American males, you most certainly have to go the extra mile. You certainly have to put in the extra time to compete. You know, I was in graduate school with a lot of my classmates and passed them in the hallways interviewing for the same jobs. And I'll be the first to say I went to an all-black high school and an all-black college, and then went to a graduate school where I was the only black. So that dynamic kind of shook me up for a little while when it comes to not knowing all that you needed to know coming into that program, but at the same time trying to allow it. So yeah, give me that second piece, but I want to put that African American piece in your spirit to let you know that you can persevere as long as you know that you got to go the extra mile. Malik?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I understand. That's some pretty good feedback. I understand what you're saying wholeheartedly. You know, honestly, you said something as well when you were talking about criticism. I want to chime in on what you were saying about criticism. So when I was starting from a very young age, I've always been aware what criticism can do for a person. I understand that it can either make or break you. If you can take it well, and you're gonna go great places. If you can't take it well, then it's only down from there. Because criticism isn't designed to hurt you; it's designed to help you. And I used to feel very self-conscious about people's criticism at a young age when I started doing art. When people say, "I don't really like that. Maybe you should do it like this," I was like, "Man, you know what I can do? I could do this. I could do that." But then, as I got older into high school, even in college, I started dipping and dabbing into acting and having acting careers and stuff like that. And you learn that criticism is always, all criticism is good criticism, because as much as you can take, you got to be like, okay, well, they told me to fix this and change this and maybe put more emphasis on that. And once you create those changes, you can notice the difference in that type of thing yourself and understand that, man, all of this is really just helping make me better. And I really appreciate that. So me as a person, I'm always able to take that same type of criticism, and it honestly has helped me. It's up from there, honestly.
Yeah.
And
Good on.
Yeah.
Did you have something else?
Hello?
Yeah, Mark. We got you, Mark?
Yeah.
There we go. All right.
Man, okay. My computer went dead. I didn't have my cord. I went to my iPad, and my iPad so I can, well, anyway, I'm on my phone now, so.
You good. We
good.
Can, yeah.
All right. So me transitioning from a student to professional, again, my instructor was excellent. My last 2 years at Valley as a student, he had me prepare my portfolio. And I did also go to Hammond and Associates. And to tell you the truth, I think they were I did some work for them a little bit, but I think they were hesitant in hiring me because I think I was kind of a threat. I don't, because looking back, there's no reason why I shouldn't have been hired. But anyway, but that's okay. And also too, I did after I finished Valley, I did work with John Richard Collection. That's interesting as well. I think somebody mentioned that. But my portfolio was pretty good. My biggest hurdle as a professional was, as you mentioned, I was in between no such thing as personal computers to it just starting. So even though I was finished and I knew what I could do, I was not familiar with computers, so I had to go back and learn that part. And my strong point is logos. Consider myself a logo designer more than anything else. But yeah, and I mentioned that my uncle was a fine artist. He was kind of well known in the St. Louis area. But it's good to know where your strong point is, what your strong point is, and to focus on that. I believe I think you can, investigate other fields of graphic design, like illustration or whatever, and of course you should. But I guess maybe some people are multi whatever, but for me, my strongest point was logo design, and so. Another thing I think Jerry had mentioned was I went to the library, even though we didn't have the internet. I went to the library and I checked out a magazine called Print, and it was another
Communication
advertising.
arts.
What's that?
Communication arts.
Yes, CA.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
And studied that. That's one thing I learned, to expose yourself to the field. See what the trends are. And be inspired, learn the trend, not duplicate it, but use it to your ability. I mean, to your circumstance. And so keep doing what you're doing, and of course, as somebody mentioned, be open to critique and look for critique, especially from your fellow professionals or the people that's in that field you want to go in. Ask them, what do you think about this? And take it. I mean, because they know. They've been there. So
that is it. Man, this hour has been well spent, guys. We are, I can't tell you, man, this has been amazing. We are excited that you guys were able to give us this time. I do think I'll plan a second round where I'll probably get the fine arts and faculty involved. With some exchange so we can talk about curriculum and get a few more students involved in the next iteration of this. I do want to thank you guys, Mark, D, John, Malik. You guys don't know. You've always been big inspirations to me. You've made me feel that my time here on earth was necessary and appointed. And I just love you all for what you're doing for our university. What you have done and what you continue to do out in the communities that you're doing in St. Louis, and what you're doing, Mark, carrying forth this expression of art and how much of a gift it is that it's inside of the people, and then to be able to provide for your families as a result of it. That just shows you the purpose in it all. So I'm grateful for you guys' time. I am going to have to slide in on behalf of the more than 1,200 active members of the National Alumni Association to make my appeal to say, hey guys, I need your membership in the National Alumni Association. We have a dubious task of 5,000 active members by 2025. We're on our way. We've got a few hundred to get to this year to stay on our upward trajectory path. But you most definitely know I'll be following with you guys to get you involved. If you don't have time for local chapter ins and outs and participations, we desperately need you as a national member at large. Chapters will most definitely be a way for you to have an outlet to do community service work, to be engaged. But we do need everybody in the fold with this campaign that we have of We Want You Back, renewing, because you all were members. When you graduated, they gave you that free complimentary membership. So we are looking to establish affinity groups, which is another new thing that I've done, where it's individuals like this, graphic design artists. We're a group, and we have art exhibits and shows, and we talk to the students. We don't do the traditional green and white luncheons and things that other groups do. We find our other ways to give back to the institutions because there are multiple ways to do it. So, guys, I appreciate you for your time. We are excited. The MVSU National Alumni Association is sponsoring this. We are working closely with the MVSU V Club and the James Herbert White Foundation, which are our affiliate organizations of the university. We are the supplementers. We are the ones out here championing the direction of keeping the Valley in motion. So we ask that you do all that you can to support local chapters or the National Alumni Association or the MVSU V Club, which is our athletic foundation. Again, guys, thanks so much. Have a good rest of the day, and you all be on the lookout for more upcoming work from John at the university with whatever the latest campaign is going to be. He'll be behind it. Dee is a phenomenal photographer, exceptional. I call him a portrait genius. And Mark, it looks like the work you're doing is just incredible. I didn't realize that you were in the school system as well. So it is just a great thing to see all of us doing well as alums. I appreciate all of you. This hour has been really well spent. I look forward to the next Alum Talk coming monthly. We will have a monthly episode with different topics and different focuses. One last key event, we have an inauguration set for April the 15th. That is Good Friday, where we will be swearing in all of the new chapter presidents, and we will be acknowledging all of our previous national presidents, and I will be sworn in along with my first and second vice president. That's April the 15th at 3:00 in H.T. Carpenter Auditorium. You'll get some information on that. And more importantly, along the same line of this as we close, we're having the first ever career graduate school and alumni expo. This is being done in concert with the Office of Career Services, Ms. Essie Bryant and her group. The Alumni Association is working in concert to now introduce our graduating seniors to the alumni chapters prior to graduating. We have an opportunity to network with them and establish working relationships with them before they get out in the world, before they go across the stage and even get sworn in. We're taking our stance on making certain that we network with our students as juniors and seniors and advise them and mentor them on career paths and options and be of support to them. But that's what it's going to take for us to retain and create this next generation of successful alumni. So again, we've got those two events, March 28th and 29th. And then we've got the inauguration coming up on the 15th. We're just excited about the activities going on with the Alumni Association and all that's happening. Again, guys, thank you for your time. And hey, guys, we'll see you next month with our next edition of Alum Talk. Y'all be blessed. Goodbye.
Okay. All right.